tell me a story.
You think I don't have stories with my jerseys?
But, like, something that nobody's gonna know about.
I think I got you.
All
Next on Ugly Thirds.
Welcome back, sports fans, to another episode of Ugly Thirds. Today's topic will be what's in a nameplate? Jersey stories. John and Shrems, take it away.
I mean, they can't just all be countdown lists. There's only so many things to count down, unless you start getting really obscure and pedantic. And we're not shallow and pedantic that way. So I like to tell stories. History teacher, we both get that.
Yep.
And of course, my jerseys tell a story. And I want to start with talking about names. Name on a jersey, everyone just takes for granted. It's a thing. It's always been a thing, right? No, this has not always been a thing. In fact, it's a rather new thing, and it was far more controversial than you might expect it to be. And let's explain some things. So early on, well, we won't go far enough back that numbers were an invention in the league in the early teens. Actually, the Patrick brothers in the Pacific Coast Hockey League were the first to put numbers on the back so you could tell who was what player.
As in, like, the Patrick division?
Yes. Okay. Those Patricks. And so numbers became a thing in the Pacific Coast Hockey League, caught on to the NHL, and so numbers were the thing. And back in the 50s and beyond, it was just a number. And that was just the way to do things. And so when they started adding names so that people could have a better idea of who's on the ice without buying a scorecard, the typical thing is to put them on a nameplate. Now, Jersey Cam might be more helpful on this. A nameplate is a piece of fabric where they put the letters onto that, and so they can stitch it onto that piece of fabric and move it around in the sewing machine and not have to move the whole jersey with every single move within, say, a K.
Okay.
And then you just put stitch right around, done and done.
Yep.
That's what a nameplate is. And not every team uses them, which I think is absurd.
It absolutely is.
There's some good reasons. Like, I realize this does not have a nameplate. But you know why it doesn't have a nameplate?
Why?
Because, well, if it did this and it covered up, it would cover up into that gray of the stripe. And so they just didn't do that. And so EPS had to go through and every serif turn around, and that's absurd.
That is your 6-month turnaround.
That's
5.5 months on this jersey alone, and then
10 minutes on the others.
Yeah, exactly.
And some teams just do it for kicks. There's another Phoenix jersey where Phil, zoom in. I believe in you.
And when I got this back, I had a moment of freaking out. Like, they messed up. There's no nameplate.
It's hard to see. It is directly onto the jersey. Yep. Now, some teams have gone so far as to have a contrasting nameplate. And there's a story behind this, at least on the orange version with the white nameplate, but that's a different story for a different video. But like contrasting nameplates is a whole like style now. You'll see that more and more. So we fully embraced the nameplate as a normal thing that jerseys just have.
But where is the story going?
Because Toronto has to be difficult. Harold Ballard, owner of the Maple Leafs, pictured there, was a notorious cheapskate. Notorious. In fact, the game-worn jerseys from this story do not exist because he sold them off to some smaller team and they were used into oblivion. Not super uncommon in that era, but not like this.
Yeah.
Everything was about the cash flow. And so it started in 1970. You start getting a lot of teams putting names on. The rule was that you could wear your name at home if you wished, and you could wear your name on the road if the home team allowed you. And I'm fairly sure that rule was simply because of Harold Ballard. But there is one point where this gets far more egregious. Okay, where's the story in this?
Right.
Well, in 1977, the league mandated that all teams had to put names on home and road. And Harold Ballard did not like that. He felt that this was going to cut into his scorecard sales. Because you can take away the credit. So back in the day, well, I guess you still could. Baseball, you definitely get, keeping score at a baseball game is a time-honored tradition. You can say exactly what every pitch and where it went. And hockey used to be that too, where you'd have your whole starting lineup and you'd fill it out based on what they said at the beginning and who got what goals. And it was a way to keep up with the game, I guess, that people did. Lost art.
Sure.
Right? So Harold Ballard was afraid that he was going to lose all his money from those scorecards. And so on his jerseys, he was told, like, no, you have to fill in and have this. You have to have names on the back. And so he maliciously complied. My favorite kind of complying. He's like, all right, fine. And for 2 games, started with a road game, the NHL starts threatening him, no, you have to have names on the jerseys or we're going to start finding you. And so for a 2-game road trip, February 26, 1978, at Chicago, the next game against the Islanders, he did put names on his jerseys. Can you see it yet? Go ahead, Jersey Cam.
Hold on.
He's working on it. He's working
it's
on it.
so bad that it's not like. There you go.
Well, that's extreme zoom. So he put blue names on blue nameplates on blue jerseys, and so
oppositional defiance.
That's it. It's malicious compliance. He's like, yeah, no, the name is there. It's there. You just can't see it. And before the NHL said this is not funny, fix it, or they were going to start leveling heavy fines on him.
As a man about money, I imagine he did not want to be fined.
He relented. And so if we can go to the next slide, not Harold Ballard slide anymore.
Okay, hold on.
It did actually make the news, and they actually did report on this. And apparently, so UniWatch just really apparently there is about 20 minutes of gameplay footage with this, and you can kind of see at times a little shine happening of these numbers. In one of these nameplates, it just emerged, 2 actually, from someone who does a lot of game-worn stuff. And look, if I had to guess, I would think some equipment manager took them off and pinned it to a board thinking this is the dumbest thing I've ever had to do. And just as kind of a trophy, because equipment managers don't throw stuff away. They know they're going to need it later. And I imagine that was simply a trophy pinned to a board, and it got sun damaged over time, which is why it's so light. So you can bring it back to us. And so this is such a ridiculous story of blue names on blue jerseys. And the story had gone out of control at times. Like, oh, the whole season, blue names on blue jerseys, white names on white jerseys.
Just 2 games?
2 games this lasted. February 26th at Chicago, February 28th I think at the Islanders. That's it. Before it became, and they were the last holdouts, and they went to white names on blue nameplates the next year, like you would expect.
And you can tell online, they probably have on Hockey Reference, they probably have the entire roster, the entire lineup that this guy actually played in that game.
Well, and that's just it. So I've been looking for one of these jerseys for a while. Now Adidas just re-released these with a lace-up collar, which predates this.
Okay.
And so I had to definitely check: is this the right one? Like that was some real looking. And then I found it, and it had just the numbers on the back with enough space, obviously, because that's the right way to do it. And I had to look on Hockey Reference, and sure enough, a number 20, Mike Pellick, played in this game.
Nice.
And so I went to a customized on eBay of, I got a unique request for you of blue on blue. And because this was not a well-publicized font with the Leafs, there was some going back and forth. And okay, can I find an era Leafs jersey with a Y in there? And how was it spaced? And we got it right. And I stitched it and I put it on, and I wore it to school, and not a single person asked about it because they never even saw it. Harold Ballard did it right.
When we go to Toronto for you guys to do this, you have to wear this jersey.
Oh, for sure.
You 100% have to.
For sure. And because it's a jersey and it has a story.
Yeah.
And that's why it's here on
Fantastic.
Jersey Stories. Johnny's Jersey Stories. So, Shrems, I'm John. Phil, why don't you take us out?
Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Tune in for another episode of Ugly Thirds.
Johnny's jersey. What was that?